after 1,600 kilometers on foot, as a slave, exhausted, starving. You're sat down at a royal banquet. To all the finest food in the world, your answer is no. Your country has just lost a war. You are taken, marched 1,000 miles across open desert to serve the empire that burned your home. By the time Babylon rises in front of you, your body is failing. Your knees burn. With every step, your back won't straighten. You're carrying a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't touch. The kind where just standing feels like work. And then they don't throw you in a cell. They walk you into the dining hall of the most powerful king on earth. Roasted meat, sweet wine, every delicacy you couldn't have dreamed of. Everything your starving, aching body is begging for. And you say, no. You ask for something else instead. Something so simple, so humble that the men around you are sure it will break you within a week. They renamed him Belteshazzar, but his real name was Daniel. By the end of this video, you'll see the difference between the food of the most powerful king on earth and the food Daniel chose instead, and what just 10 days of it did to his body. It was written down 2,600 years ago, and it might change the way you look at what's on your own table tonight. His story begins in Jerusalem, in the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim, when Babylon came and the city fell. Daniel was young, likely still a teenager, and he belonged to the families that Babylon most wanted, the bright, the capable, the promising. Exactly the kind of young men an empire could absorb and use. So they marched east to the court of King Nebuchadnezzar, and the plan for them was simple. 3 years of training, a new language, and new names. The name Daniel means, God is my judge. The Babylonians knew this and gave him a new one, Belteshazzar, built from Bel, the chief god of Babylon. It wasn't just a new label, it was a claim, a way of saying, your God doesn't rule you here, ours does. And food from the king's own table every single day, until the young men of Judah forgot they had ever been anything else. The renaming worked on the others. The food was meant to finish the job. But with Daniel, something stopped it. Every day, the servants brought him his portion, the king's rich food, and wine from the king's own cup. The other young men ate it gladly. Why wouldn't they? It was the finest food in the empire, and refusing it was unthinkable. But ask yourself what you'd have done. Starving, far from home, the best food you've ever seen set in front of you, and saying no to it could cost you your life. Most of us would eat. Daniel didn't, because Daniel understood what the food really was. It wasn't a gift, it was a leash. The same hand that had stamped a Babylonian god onto his name was now reaching for his body. One plate at a time, eat the king's bread, drink the king's wine. Bite by bite you became his, until there was nothing of God left in you to take. They had already taken his city, his temple, his name, but not this. Daniel believed something the others in that room didn't. That the God who had carried him 1,000 miles across the desert was not about to abandon him at a dinner table. That a body kept by God needed nothing from the table of a king. So he made the one bet a starving man is never supposed to make. He pushed the plate away and trusted that whatever God provided would carry him further than anything Babylon could serve. He didn't make a scene. He didn't rebel. He simply went to the official in charge of him and quietly asked for something else. Understand what that small request cost. It wasn't only Daniel's life on the line now. If these 4 young men grew thin and weak, it was the official who would answer to the king with his own head. He had every reason to refuse, and yet he listened. That's the detail the story wants you to catch. The official didn't soften because Daniel was clever, or because he begged well. Something had already moved in Daniel's favor before he ever opened his mouth. The same God who had carried him 1,000 miles was already in the room ahead of him. But favor didn't erase the man's fear. It was still his neck on the line, and he said so plainly. So Daniel turned to the steward the official had set over them and offered a way out. Not a demand, a test. 10 days. That was the whole bet. Let us eat the plain food, what grows from the ground, and drink only water. Then look at us. Compare us to the young men eating the king's meat and wine, and judge for yourself. 10 days of that, while everyone around you feasts. Most people would feel it by the 3rd day, wouldn't you? The hunger, the doubt, the pull to just give in and eat like the others. Daniel held the line, and the official agreed to watch and wait. Think about what was actually on each of those 2 tables. The king's table was the table of excess, heavy meats, rich and fatty, sweet, strong wine, food refined and prepared to impress. The diet of a court that had everything and held nothing back. And Daniel's table, the word he used points to something humble and whole. In Hebrew it's zeroim, things grown from seed. Not refined, not rich. The food of the land itself. We can picture it well because we know what grew in that world. Lentils and beans, the protein of the ancient poor. Barley and wheat, ground into coarse bread. Garden vegetables and herbs. Maybe figs or dates, and water in place of the king's wine. Plain, whole. Nothing processed, nothing refined. The opposite, in almost every way, of the feast on the other table. Everyone expected the same ending. The rich food wins. The boy grows weak. Stay with me. Because the man running this test wrote down exactly what he saw. 10 days passed. The official came to look at them, bracing himself, perhaps, for 4 thin, hollow faces, the quiet end of this dangerous little experiment. Instead, he stopped. And he stared, better, healthier, stronger than the young men who had been eating like royalty, on vegetables and water. The plain table had won, and the official made his decision. From that day on, Daniel and his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, kept eating the food they had chosen. And they thrived on it all the way into the courts of kings. Now, here's where it gets interesting for us 600 years later. Strip away the palace and look at what Daniel was actually eating. Whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and fruit, olive oil and garden food, water instead of wine. Almost nothing that was refined, and nothing we would call processed. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's very close to what the modern world rediscovered and named the Mediterranean diet. The simple, plant-rich, whole food way of eating that research today associates with some of the healthiest, longest living people on Earth. Now, the Bible isn't a nutrition manual, and this isn't medical advice. But it's a striking thing to sit with. The food Daniel chose, plain, whole, grown from the ground, is the same kind of eating we keep circling back to every time we get lost in the rich and the refined, the heavily processed, which raises a quiet question over our own dinner table tonight. So much of what's offered to us now is the king's table, refined, processed, engineered to be irresistible. Daniel looked at exactly that kind of abundance, chose the simple food of the earth instead. What would it change if now and then we did the same, but understand? Daniel didn't push that plate away to chase his health. He wasn't counting anything on it. He refused it because of who he was, who he answered to. He had lost his country, his temple, even his name. The food on that table was the one thing left they couldn't take without his consent. The last line he could still draw for himself. This far, and no further. I will not be remade into someone I'm not. There's something quietly powerful in that. A young man with no power and no army, choosing the humble over the abundant, and trusting he'd be carried. And he was. The body he guarded for God's sake, God guarded right back. The young man who should have withered on plants and water didn't just hold on. 10 days in, he stood clearer, steadier, stronger than the men who ate like kings. The line Daniel drew was for his soul, but his body became the proof. The strength he was looking for in heaven showed up in his own skin. The most powerful king on earth set the finest food in the world in front of him. Daniel chose what grew from the ground, a cup of water. The rest he left to God, and in the end, his body told the truth his faith already knew. Maybe that's the part worth carrying with you. That, sometimes, the most powerful thing a person can do is to quietly say no to the table everyone else is rushing toward, and to trust that what is simple, whole and true will be enough. Daniel did, and it was. If this one moved you, stay close. There are more like him. Before you go, tell me in the comments, which part stayed with you, and whose story should I bring to the table next? I read everyone. Take care of yourself. I'll see you at the next table.